Hello and welcome back to Aubrey Books and Coffee. Please grab your favorite beverage of choice and join me. So January is over, everyone. It's officially over. I can't believe it. Is it just me, or does time go by faster and faster? Because the first month of 2025 is already done. It blows my mind. I hope you all had a wonderful January. We certainly did too. Glad to kind of get back into the normal routine though, because I'm a routine girly. So I'm just much happier when I know what's to expect and what's coming. So I'm happy with that. And I had a fabulous reading month. So this year, my channel is going to be a lot like previous times, only hopefully a little bit more polished, a little bit more vlogging and the content that you guys have been begging me for. I hope to provide for you. You let me know below anything else you want to see. Happy to oblige as long as it's within the budget. But also my channel, I'm going to start doing more of I do my TBR game. I love my TBR game. And 100%, I plan on getting to all the books that I do end up choosing on that TBR game sometime in that year. But I'm going to stop putting the pressure on those being the only books I pick up for the entire month. And that way I give myself a chance to mood read a little. And there's a lot of times I request things like Onyx Storm or Witchcraft for Wayward Girls by Grady Hendrix, things like that I request. And the library says, hey, you're going to have a 3-month hold on this. So I request it and then bam, it's available. And I'm not going to miss the opportunity to read it. So things like that are going to happen. And as you'll see in my stats in a second, I think this is going to work very well for my reading life this year to kind of go with that mood and still have that outline of the 20 plus books that I roll for. So let me know below if that didn't make sense or if there's anything else you'd like to see. That being said, let's talk about those stats. I read a total of read 28 books this month. That totaled 8,525 pages, which broken down per book is about 304 pages per book. Not bad. My main genre was, of course, still fantasy. My format, of course, was still mostly audiobook, or it wouldn't nearly be that high of a number. And I ended up having 4 5-stars. Love that. 12 4-stars, which just means they're just as good sometimes, but I don't want to put them on my shelf or reread them. So yeah, some of those were 4.99999. 8 3-stars, 1 2-star, and 3 DNFs. I'm also going to be more friendly with DNFing this year. That being said, it could be a soft DNF. For those who don't know this terminology, basically it means I'm not swearing I'll never get to it. Those I will 100% DNF, goodbye, see you later. The soft DNF, sometimes I put them back on my want to read and I make a little note in my journal, and that way I know why I walked away, because sometimes it's just me. It's a me thing, the situation I'm in, the mood I'm in, and it just wasn't hitting right. But it may be something that is a favorite later on, so I don't want to totally give up on it. And we've been having a good time laughing in the Discord. Of course, links below on all the things I talk about today. Feel free to go check it out. It's absolutely free, and we have a fabulous time. We would always love to have you there. And we had a fun discussion talking about how exactly do you soft DNF things? Because I create a DNF graveyard in my journal where I actually have a little tombstone and then the covers for these books in the tombstone. And so they said, what do you do if you soft DNF and then come back and actually love it? I said, well, then I'll have to make a little image of it rising from the grave or something because it ended up being something that's no longer a DNF. So we'll see. I'll share pictures if that does end up happening. So that was basically most of the stats. My average rating was 3.8. So like I said, obviously the whole mood read thing and going off of that as a template for what my game is actually worked really well. I love starting off the year with such a high rating. And then most of my books I acquired through Libby and physical books through the library. They saved me so much money. God bless the library is all I'm saying. All right, so shall we get started on the actual reviews? And as always, let me know below if there's any that you end up liking or agree with my rating or anything like that. I love hearing from you all. Starting it off for a vlog that you're going to see in the future, I read Old Man Logan Volume 7. This I gave 3 stars. I love seeing familiar characters come back, and I don't want to spoil anything, But that cover actually shows you one of the characters that comes back from the dead. So you know how comics do. So it's very exciting. And I actually really enjoyed the story and had a good time. Then I did The Last Delivery. This one I gave 2 stars. It was weird. It was kind of like some kind of crazy acid trip going on. I thought it'd be cute with this little guy needing to deliver a package. He just needs a signature on the package. And it ends up just like I said, like an acid trip. It was just weird, really, really weird. Not up my alley. So that got 2 stars. Then I read Woman World. This I gave 4 stars. I don't plan on rereading it, but it was hilarious. Not for children. Keep that in mind. But basically, we're in the future in a world where there's only women. All men are gone. So when the children are asking things like, what were men like? The women get to tell the story. And so it's kind of cute. It's very tongue-in-cheek. It's not meant to be super serious, but there's a lot of moments in here that they would say things that you're going, right on, sister. It was just a really fun read. Then I finished The Naturals. I gave that 4 stars. I've been dying to do this series. I keep bringing it up ever so often in my book club and they never choose it. I'm glad I finally got to read it. This is kind of like teenagers that are being recruited like in an FBI type of environment. They have the abilities to read people. So think shows like The Mentalist. And so basically they're, brought on this team. So it's kind of like Criminal Minds, but Mentalist. And it's all about their interactions with each other and with trying to solve the crimes. And of course, there's a twist at the end, which is exciting. I'm assuming this will now bring us into the second book, which I haven't started yet. So it was a good time for me. Then I finished Spectacular. This I gave 3 stars. Of course, with it being a Stephanie Garber, this is the novella set in Caraval. I have to admit, I gave it a 3-star because as gorgeous as it is and as much fun as it was to be able to revisit that world, there really wasn't a lot of substance to it. So go into it knowing you're just wanting to see familiar characters. You're just wanting to get that atmosphere again. Don't expect it to be any kind of story that's gripping or that gives you meat and potatoes. We're talking, this is the little appetizer. This is the couple of little cubes of cheese and cracker you have before your meal. So go into it knowing that and you'll enjoy it. Then I finished 6 Scorched Roses. Now, a lot of Carissa Broadbent I have loved, like Serpent and the Wings of Night series, and I just was so excited to be able to dive into more, and this one did not let me down. I gave it 5 stars. I got to meet some new characters, which was so much fun. It almost felt like a Beauty and the Beast kind of a retelling. It was very allies to lovers, which was so cute, and you've got gods, angry gods. So again, it's in this whole world of Nyaxia, and I just chef's kiss. Love it. And it's so small. It's a quick, easy read as well. You could totally read this without having read the other ones. It will not spoil anything. I think you'll enjoy it and should pick it up. So then moving on, I finished my nonfiction for the month, which is The Third Gilmore Girl. I gave it 4 stars. Really, really love her. She's an incredible actress. I always loved, not Rory's mom, Lorelai's mom, Rory's grandmother in the Gilmore Girls show. And I always thought she was a great actress and very quirky and sarcastic. And it did not let me down. She actually reads it herself. It's her memoir. And I just got to learn a whole lot more about her, which I really loved. Then I finished House of Pounding Hearts. This I gave 5 stars to. It's book 2 in the series and also going to be in a vlog that's coming up soon. The banter was bantering. It was so good. I can't say a lot because that would ruin the first one. But needless to say, at the ending, I knew I needed to pick up the next one right away. Then I finished Lux Obsidian. This I gave 5 stars. This one actually was a gift at Christmas from my mother. It was an absolutely gorgeous edition, as you can see. And so I just went into it thinking, I really hope I like this. Because some of Armin Trout's, the series is good and I enjoy the writing, but not enough to 5-star it. And so I was really kind of hesitant on this one initially. It does read very YA, so keep that in mind. Feels a lot like Twilight, only instead of vampires, we have aliens. So keep that in mind. But if you love Twilight and you like that kind of nostalgic feel of the teen angsty world, I think you would enjoy this one too. And I'm definitely continuing this series. Next, I read Escaping from Houdini. This is book 3 in Stalking Jack the Ripper series. There's romance, there's a love triangle, there's of course a murder, because all of these series have that. And there's even almost kind of a Titanic theme about it. So that was kind of exciting for me. I really enjoyed it. And of course, magic and can they escape and things like that. The only thing I didn't really like is that love triangle. I really didn't, because I want my 2 main characters to stay together. I don't want there to be a third. Come on, go away. You, I'm kicking at you with my foot. Go away. They're happy. Leave them alone. But that's just me, because obviously you need to have some kind of, give and take and, will they, won't they, or you don't keep the interest of the audience. I get that. I'm one of those old fuddy-duddies that I like a happy ending. I like when everybody's all happy and just, trolloping through the tulips. I'm okay with that. But I know I'm also alone in that. So I gave it 4 stars though and really enjoyed it. And I thank you, Kim from Whimsical Narratives, for mentioning this series to begin with. Otherwise, I wouldn't have picked it up. And I love Carrie Maniscalco, and this is just amazing. Then I finished Part of Your World. I gave this 4 stars. I was so impressed with how good it is. I'm kicking myself for waiting this long to pick it up. This was an apothecary jar pick of all things. So all the random books and all the random world, I got this one, and I'm so glad. I've liked Abby Jimenez before, so I'm not surprised. I liked the writing style. We have a big city, and a woman who lives there who's very, very wealthy, comes from wealthy family, has wealthy friends, has that kind of lifestyle. But then this ER doctor who is wealthy goes to a small town and meets small town man who's like 10 years younger than her, doesn't have that kind of money. Again, small town, but it's just so sweet and so wonderful. And they're kind of falling for each other, but they really don't fit in each other's world. And what do you do? So it was really sweet, though. It gave me all the feels, and I just had such a good time with this, and I highly recommend it. Then I finished Nubia Real One. I gave this 5 stars. This is definitely, as you can see by the cover, a Wonder Woman kind of comic feel to it. I don't want to ruin anything because there's a bit of a reveal. I didn't know ahead of time. My husband, of course, would know because he's big on comics, so he knows the Wonder Woman lore. I didn't know it as well, so it was kind of an interesting surprise for me, but I had a good time. There's also some issues of race that are brought up in this, but not shoved down your throat, just a part of her world. So I really had a good time, and I highly recommend this, and I'm definitely going to have to pick up future issues. Then I finished My Dear Hamilton. I gave this one 4 stars. This was my library book club pick for the month. And I have to admit, I was hearing Hamilton in the background in my head the whole time I was reading this. I loved getting to hear more of Eliza Hamilton's story. Nobody has a book about her. Nobody talks about her. The musical kind of hit on her a little bit, like in relation to her sisters and how she supported, Alexander. But man, was that guy a cad. To use their vernacular. But she still stood by him, and just her relationship with her sister, even though potentially the sister was doing something naughty. And it just, there's so much in here. So I think it was very well written. It was written by 2 authors, one of which is a historian and the other one's a romance writer. And you feel that. You can definitely feel the drama. A lot of the older folks that are in my book club were saying things like it felt like it was a soap opera. I didn't mind that. If I don't have me some soap opera or trash TV every once in a while, I get bored. So I had a good time with this one, and I highly recommend it. It is over 600 pages though, so make sure you strap in for that. Then I finished This Earl of Mine. I gave this a 4 stars. It's a bodice-ripping kind of Harlequin romance. I've never read from this author before. Spoiler, this is another vlog that's going to be coming out soon. So many vlogs coming out next month, you guys. And so I really actually had a good time. I was surprised. Our main hero actually is very wealthy, but of course, in order to have the freedom to do what she wants in this day and age, she has to be married. So she ends up deciding, you know what? I'm going to go to this prison cell and I'm going to pick me out a prisoner and I'm going to marry him. And that way I can put him on a boat to America. I'm married, therefore I have my freedom, but don't have to deal with a husband. And of course, as with all good romances, it never quite goes the way you think it will. So it was a good time though. I was laughing. I enjoyed the banter they had. I enjoyed the cat and mouse game going on. And I just did. I had such a good time. I'm 100% going to be reading from this author again in the future. Then I finished The Author's Guide to Murder. This one I gave 4 stars. It felt very Murder, She Wrote meets Golden Girls of all things. I'm pretty sure the authors that are banding together aren't quite as old as Golden Girls. I'm assuming they're probably middle-aged, but just the way they talk to each other, just the way they're interacting and stuff. It felt like that. That being said, make sure you look for trigger warnings, because I rarely will look for a trigger warning. And so it didn't trigger me, but there was something that pops up towards the end that you're like, whoa, did not see this coming. So make sure that you look that up if you do get triggered by things. But I thought it was a fun ride. But again, if you're not into the older style sounding verbiage like Murder, She Wrote, you may not like the writing style of this one. I grew up with Lillian Jackson Braun's Cat Who series, and I don't mind it. So that's why I was all for it and had a great time. Then I finished, I'm going to say it's Nascent, which I apologize if I'm butchering that. I gave it 3 stars. This was a NetGalley GoodReads. So it was both. I got to double dip, which was nice. It was good. I think for me, it felt very Sabrina the Teenage Witch, but modern days, and she's older. She's in her 20s. I think my problem with it is, first of all, the names were extremely confusing. So the main character was named Sella, and her familiar that finds her to tell her that she's actually a witch is named Sable. And so a lot of times their names were in the same sentence and same paragraph multiple times, and I got kind of confused, and it was just kind of hard to keep it all straight. Add to that, there's times that there's a whole lot of unnecessary details, like when she has to go dog walking for somebody. There were so many details on like dressing up the dog and stuff like that I'm just like, when are we going to get to the part where she has powers or something? Like she's actually doing something. And it felt very boring and dragging on because of that. I do have to say, I absolutely love Sable the cat's personality and how he relates to her actual pet cat that she has in her apartment. That part was hysterical to me. But outside of that, there were just too many times that the pacing just seemed very, very slow. And I just wasn't a huge fan, but I wasn't miserable. So 3 stars. Then I finished The Case of the Stolen Goddess. This was also a GoodReads win. I'm trying to get through all of these wins I've been blessed with. This is actually book 2 in the series, but I didn't feel too lost. Like the author did a fabulous job of not making us feel like we've missed something. The 2 guys are almost like a Sherlock Holmes and Watson vibe about them that are kind of like reflecting back on previous cases is what it felt like. So there's a bit of a time jump going on here. I just didn't really vibe with the writing style. Now that's a me thing. So I will never, grade somebody lower than a 3-star because I just don't vibe with that writing style. So I would say I recommend it for somebody else as long as you're more into that drier kind of writing style. In fact, like the actual old Sherlock Holmes novels. If you've read those and absolutely love that writing style, I think this would definitely be for you. If you thought those were kind of actually boring and you like more Lillian Jackson Braun, I would avoid this one, but get that Author's Guide to Murder. Hope that made sense. Then I finished A Sea of Unspoken Things. This is one of those that popped up available in Libby all of a sudden. I'm glad it did. I gave it 3 stars. I enjoy Adrienne Young. I enjoy so many of her books. This is about 2 twins, and one passes away and the other starts to find out secrets of that twin. Did somebody murder him? Like what exactly is going on? It was a little confusing at first because the main character, the twin that we're seeing, is actually a woman named James. You don't see that very often, kind of like a boy named Sue. You just don't see that very often. So it was a little confusing, but I finally got on board and it was sweet. It had a bit of a romance going into it too, a mystery, of course, trying to figure out a plot for a murder potentially. And I found out that Adrienne Young is a twin herself, which is super cool. I had no idea. So that was really neat to get to know and see in the author's notes at the end. But for me, I think even though there was a twist at the end I didn't see coming and I really enjoyed it, again, the pacing just felt off. I don't know what it is. Sometimes the pacing just feels really good. Sometimes it's like really big reveal, details, really big reveal, detail. And I'm cool with that. It's when it's really big reveal, details, really big reveal. That's when I'm like, maybe not for me. So for me, it was a 3-star, but it was well written and I enjoyed it. And I think you guys would too. Then I finished Curvy Girl Summer. This I gave 4 stars. Oh my goodness, it was so good. It was so good. I have never read from this author before. Spoiler, it's in one of the previous vlogs I told you was coming out. So spoiler for that vlog too. But it was a romance, obviously. It's all about being comfy in your skin and finding friends in unexpected places. And it was just so good. I loved the story. I loved the writing style. I thought it was fabulous. Fair warning, it starts off immediately with a spicy scene. Like within the first 5 pages, you've got major descriptive spice going on. So this author does not mind throwing the spice on the page. Just know you have been warned. But I had a good time, and I'm 100% going to pick up the next book that I think this is a series of, because yeah, I had a great time. Then I finished Babylonia. This I gave 3 stars. This was a book of the month, and I picked it for that, but also it was a NetGalley that I got to pick up. So again, always trying to get that score up. This is almost like a, Greek Game of Thrones to me. There's a lot of that political stuff going on and family dynamics and naughtiness happening and stuff. So it felt very much like that. But unfortunately for me, what sunk it from a 4-star, I knew it wasn't going to be a 5-star, but I was pretty sure 4-star most of the way through this, was the ending. The ending was such a letdown for me. I feel like the buildup was so incredible that when you get to the end, it just kind of felt like the landing didn't get stuck for me. So that's why it gives a 3-star. If you go into it knowing that and just enjoy the ride up until the end, I think you'll be okay and satisfied with the ending. I just kept expecting it to ramp and it didn't. So heads up there. Then I finished House of Striking Oaths. This is book 3 in that same series of the Pounding Hearts that I talked about. It gets less of a rating, a 3-star instead of a 5, because again, the pacing was really weird, but also it wasn't necessary. Like there was a whole lot that had nothing to do with the story. And don't you hate that? I do anyway. I hate when I've invested all my time and attention into reading something, and halfway through the book, I find out we're not even going to revisit that half. It didn't matter. It's potentially a part of their past now, but it really didn't matter to what's going on in the next half of the story. And it's not going to be talked about. And it just feels kind of like, what was the point? Like, I feel like it was almost just filler, and I hate that. I absolutely hate that. So for me, that was a huge letdown, and that's why I said 3 stars. Now, there's supposed to be 2 more books that are kind of a offshoot of this main trilogy. I don't think I'm going to continue, to be honest. I think I'm done with this one. I finished out the original trilogy. It's a shame that it didn't stick the landing at all for me. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about that. I love her writing style. I just really did not like this 3rd book of how it wrapped everything up. I just really didn't. Then I finished Winterwood. I gave this one 3 stars. This was our book club pick. Lots of controversy and discord over this one. It started off so good. It's very YA. It's got the cold vibes, and it was magical. It's got witchiness in it. It's got kids that are stuck in this like summer retreat kind of thing that the bad boys get sent to. And there's a kid that ends up going missing and a kid that gets killed. And yeah, so there's all this stuff going on in woods that are potentially evil. And it just sounds so cool. And it gives you definitely chilly vibes as you're reading it. Unfortunately, it's one of those where you have big thing, details, then something. And it just kind of drug on there for a lot of us. So unfortunately, it seemed like the average was around 2, 2.5, and 3 stars for this one. Can't say I would recommend it necessarily unless you go into it knowing all of that and you're prepared for that. Then I finished Red, White, and Royal Blue, again, part of a vlog. So sweet and so cute. It's got politics. It's got the romance. It felt like Heartstopper, only with a prince and the president's son. So it was really, really cute. I had a good time. I enjoyed the laughs that happened. I enjoyed the surprise reveals that happened and the family dynamics and the friendships. It was just such a good time. I think it was a little bit longer than it honestly needed to be, but that's okay. I still had a really good time, and that's why I gave it that 4 stars. Then I finished Witchcraft for Wayward Girls, another one that surprised me on Libby. They just give me all the books really, really soon, even though they tell me I've got months to wait. 4 stars because it was amazing. I absolutely loved it. Most Grady Hendrix I absolutely love, and this was definitely not an exception. It's all about young girls who get knocked up, and of course, because it's back in like the 50s kind of time frame and 60s, they had to go to a house where they, fulfilled their pregnancy. And then once they pop the kid out, they adopt that kid out to a couple and then send the kid back home to continue their life like nothing happened. Of course, that's not what really, like, of course, people still remembered and were scarred and things like that. Not the greatest setup that they had back then, but that's where the story takes place. And basically, there's a traveling library that the girls get to go visit. And one time when they go visit, they're kind of complaining about how horrible these women are to them there, that these nuns just, are just like abusive to them. These older women are just horrible and make them do all kinds of labor, and they're mean and they restrict their food and all kinds of things. And so the librarian says, I've got a book for you, and gives them a book. And it ends up being a book on witchcraft. And what the girls are going to find out as they're going through this book and stuff is they need to lean on each other for support to get through things. But also, if a witch offers you help, chances are they're going to want something in return. That was my takeaway. So it was a fun ride, and it was very interesting. And I do highly recommend this. Then I finished The Bones Beneath My Skin. This was another NetGalley, and this has been out for a couple of years, actually. I didn't even know it was there, though, but I love me a TJ Klune. Nobody writes like TJ Klune. It was definitely found family, and it was about aliens, basically. And so it was just so cute, though, the way the romance happens, and this little girl, and just, it's just heart melting, and it is so good and funny and quirky, as most of TJ Klune's writing is. And I just had such a good time, and highly, highly recommend this one. Now, if you've been doing the math, that's 25 books. So that means, of course, I've got 3 DNFs to talk about. The first one was A Court of Sugar and Spice. It's supposed to be a Nutcracker retelling. It was just not my style. It was just written in a way that just made me bored. Like, they literally could be talking about anything, and I was just bored. And so again, this is the year where I'm going to be okay DNFing. And so I DNF'd this one actually pretty early on. I want to say I wasn't even 15% into it, but I was so bored. And that was audiobook even too, which is my favorite way of doing it. So yeah, it just wasn't for me. Then I ended up DNFing for She Is Wrath. I hated to do this because it starts off with a jailbreak. Like, how exciting and cool is that? But again, I wasn't vibing with the writing style. There was something about it. It's YA, but not overly kiddish. But it was just kind of like, we're doing this jailbreak, but we're going to stop and talk about our feelings. Like, what? I don't know. It just kept taking me out of the story, and I just kept getting annoyed with the girls, which isn't fair. And so I realized it just wasn't for me at this time. Could be just the writing style. It could be a now, I'm just not in the mood for it now thing. But whatever it is, I had to DNF this one. Then I DNF'd Prophet's Gambit. Also kind of a YA feel to it. This was another NetGalley, which now I'm up to 97%. Woo! Had to DNF it because even though it's got an absolutely gorgeous cover, it is so YA. It is so young. It's like young writing style. And it just sounded very whiny to me. And then it was like, these kids are going to run over here and do this, and these kids are running over and doing this. And it just didn't feel like it was actually going to be fantastical, which is what the back of it sounded like. It sounded like it was going to have kind of a fantasy-esque-ness to it, with dreams and interpreting dreams and things and finding a hidden land. But in the beginning, not really. In the very beginning, it's just a bunch of kids yelling at each other, mocking each other, and not even with really good jokes that kept me entertained. So unfortunately for me, it was a DNF. But that is all of my books that I did for this month. Please let me know below your favorite book of January, and let me know if there's anything that you'd like me to review and read and review for you, if there's any in here that you're going to try. Thank you all so much for being here. I can't wait till tomorrow. Readathon! Readathon! Thanks for being here, guys. Please like, subscribe, send your friends, and I'll see you tomorrow.